Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us here at the Self Connection with Ginny Brown and Kelly Pietro, where we have conversations with a group of Ascended Masters known as the Multitude of the Greater Good.
Yes, Kelly asks the questions, and the multitude gives the answers through me. I channel the answers from this group, who is it's a group of ascended masters and other higher level beings that have access to information from the day of creation to the present time, plus whatever it is that you have come to accomplish on the earth plane. Therefore, there is a vast amount of information, and the questions are there to guide the multitude as to where to focus their energy and information on allowing us the answers. So Kelly asks, and the multitude answers.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay, so today, I've been pondering last week some questions I had for Jesus. So can we bring Jesus in the house?
We can do that, but my question while you were asking that was, do you want information from the multitude, or do you want information from Jesus? Or what I got is we're going to get a combination of both. So
Yeah, that was going to be my answer actually, because part of some of my questions are questions I would like Jesus to answer, because I would like his perspective from when he was here on earth and incarnated. And then some of the other questions are more from Jesus on the soul level, reflecting from what he knows now after having that incarnation. If that makes sense.
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to say, as you know, Jesus lived on earth at that time as Jesus, but he's lived very many incarnations as well. And I'm sure
Yeah.
learned a lot more since then. So I'm glad you specified what you wanted.
Yeah. And I'll try to specify it with the questions too, so that our listeners can even hear the difference of, I just keep hearing Yeshua. Isn't that one of his names?
Yeah. That's just how you say it in Hebrew, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I just keep hearing that instead of Jesus, but and I've never called him Yeshua, but I think I knew that that was one of the names they called him.
Yeah.
Okay, so hi Jesus. I would like to know if you're willing to share from the perspective of when you were incarnated. How was it that you learned the ability to heal and help others? How did you go about learning those skills?
It is important to understand, my dear, that on the spiritual plane, each and every other one is quite talented indeed. The energy is there. It is a matter of if one wishes to bring that energy to the earth plane in their current incarnation. I can tell you, in my incarnation as Jesus, I was able to bring a great deal with me. And then I was able to, it's like, hone it down, sharpen my skills while being on the earth plane. It is important to understand that each and every other one has this ability. Each one has the opportunity to move him or herself along a path of love and healing. It's like sometimes it is done in a conventional way, and sometimes it is done in an unconventional way. There are many ways for healing to occur. Sometimes it is done just by being in the presence of another. Do not be concerned. It is important to understand, my dear, there are many reasons for healing. Some is for physical, some is for mental, some is for emotional, and some is for a larger impact on the, it's like on the earth plane or the collective of being. There are, just stopped, wait a minute. There are those things that one on the earth plane cannot understand. There are those things that are being healed in the spiritual that one cannot understand. And those things in the physical that are direct results of the spiritual healing. Do not be concerned. Now we're going, and we're flipping. In our estimation, my dear, it is important that each one understand that there are many on the earth plane who have the capabilities of healing, whether or not they are aware of it. There are those on the earth plane who wish to help another. That is healing. There are those on the earth plane who wish to receive help from another. That is also healing. It is important to understand that when one believes that there is good on the earth, that is also healing. We can tell you that when it is that the healing occurs, much changes both on the physical and the spiritual. In our estimation, you would be wise to understand that whether or not it is healing, healing versus being versus, uh, I don't know. Healing versus being versus Jesus versus others. Do not be concerned. Healing is healing is healing, and all is love.
I feel that. I have to say, when you said I knew what you meant. You said we're flipping.
Yeah, to
You're
the multitude,
flipping from Jesus to the multitude, right?
to the all.
And I could feel it expand
Yeah,
so much more. Like I actually had like this visceral feeling of whoa, from like being focused to like
sure. Yeah,
being really expansive.
yeah.
I it's funny, Ginny, when you channel, I probably because we spend so much time together, I can feel because I mean, on this channel, it's usually the multitude, but one-on-one, oftentimes I'll be there when someone asks for like an ancestor or an angel or whatever. And I can tell when it's switching, but this time I could feel it.
Ah,
That was interesting.
yeah, that's
It
good.
was like, um,
See, this time
okay.
I couldn't tell the difference. I could only tell by what they were saying, because the feeling to me was all the same. It's all the same huge energy.
If you go back and listen to and watch yourself,
Yeah,
like it's not your voice, it's like the
there were
language or the vocabulary is different.
changes. Yeah,
It's like more human versus more abstract or something like that.
yeah,
Um, I mean, it's super subtle, but
yeah.
I'd
But
be curious if you
yeah,
watched it, you
I
noticed.
was speaking energetically. Energetically, I couldn't tell. By the words, I could, sure, um, but not by the energy. Sometimes I can, if you were asking to speak to, I don't know, a relative or something, someone,
Yeah,
I can feel the energy change as it comes in, and sometimes I just have to stop and wait till the energy comes in, and then when it's complete, of course, the energy moves on. So
yeah. Well, it's like before we started recording today. You're like, oh, I feel that. Something else. Okay, so if Jesus is cool sticking around for a bit, I mean, he's always there, I know that.
it is important. Wait, it is important to understand, my dear, that I am always sticking around. However, I am not always in the capacity of Jesus. I am in the capacity of my higher being, as that is far more energetically composed than the individual being of Jesus. There are many parts of each one of us, and it is important to understand that each one in each individual capacity of being learns much along their experience of um, I want to say it's not incarceration. It's
Carnation.
incarnation.
Sometimes it feels like incarceration.
Yeah, I can tell you I have lived many lifetimes, many different parts of myself have grown. However, it is important to understand that I am one being with much experience and many lifetimes of experiences. It is also important to understand that each of you have the same capability. You each have the same ability to move forward in many experiences of being while maintaining your higher sense of being and self. Do not be concerned. When it is that you believe that I am separate, it is that you are interested in my knowing at the time, my experience at the time, my being at the time. However, I can tell you that there was a great deal more to me than has been explained or shared. And there is much more to you that can be explained or shared at this moment of your being. There is that whole greater sense of self and being in the eternal world that is there for you to tap into when the time is right. Thank you for asking for my expertise. And I can tell you that along the many parts of my journey, I have learned much, I have shared much, and I have changed my name numerous times in the experiences. And at this moment, I would prefer to be called Joe, as that who is who I am, an ordinary Joe on the earth plane. Thank you so much for asking. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that's funny because you've heard him say that before.
Yeah, I wanted to
Call me
be,
Joe.
yeah,
I kind of like that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Jesus. We're buds. I just call him Joe.
yeah. Because he many times he says, I'm just like you. Call me Joe.
Yeah. So, okay, well, he can answer this from whatever perspective. Joe can answer it from whatever perspective he'd like. Um,
Well,
we've been,
he also wants to share that he's also part of the multitude. He's not separate from the multitude.
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But
Makes
he wants
sense.
to bring that out.
Thanks, Joe. So we have been taught that in your incarnation as Jesus, it was believed that you died on the cross to heal everyone of their sins, the blood of Christ and all that. It's a two-part question. Did you believe that at the time in your incarnation as Jesus, that indeed you were dying for the sake of all mankind? And in as Joe, the more expanded level of consciousness of Jesus, how would you explain that to us as humans now? Was that an accurate depiction, or is there a better understanding we should know now?
It is important to understand, my dear, that upon coming to the earth plane, I knew that my goal was to accomplish an expansion of myself and others. When each one comes to the earth plane, they come with a stated accomplishment of being. And my stated accomplishment of being was the expansion of one and all. I can tell you that when it is that each one decides it is right for one to be on the earth plane, One decides how one wishes to expand. And they switch back and forth between my and our. In our estimation, my dear, it is important to understand that Jesus has had many incarnations, as you have had many incarnations, as Kelly has had many incarnations, and as many on the earth plane have had many incarnations. And each time, each one learns more, adds to one's knowledge, adds to one's expansion of being, and adds to that part of the whole that one is. We can tell you when it is that Jesus is committed to create an expansion. He does it which is in the best way for him, as each of you do it in what's in the best way for you. We can tell you that he is interested in helping, as you are interested in learning, and all is love.
So it seems like he did it. He knew his stated accomplishment of being before incarnating. And at the time and the level of human consciousness where he incarnated at the time, that was the language that best suited that time to allow for that accomplishment of being to be expressed. So to be able to say, I'm spilling my blood for you, was something that could have been accepted
Yeah,
by a number of people, so that the awakening could have
but
happened.
did he say that, or did someone,
Well, that's what I was
point?
wondering that too.
It is important to understand, my dear, that I am the one on the earth plane now, as you are on the earth plane now. And in all my learning over all my incarnations of being, I have come to agree that it was an expression of the time. It was not my stated agreement, my stated obsession of life. In our estimation, however, my dear, it is time to understand that not only are you capable of allowing yourself the growth, as each of you are doing the best that you can in that area, we can tell you, my dear, that as it is that each one allows each one's own self the growth of expansion, not necessarily the growth of the intellect, one is able to move oneself forward. When one begins to know more of who one is, how one is, why one is able to understand on a different level that one is on the earth plane for a reason of being, not necessarily for the intellectual growth required to move oneself along. We can tell you that as it is that Jesus allowed himself to incarnate over and over again, and each of you have allowed yourselves to incarnate over and over again, each of you have grown as he has grown, and he is able to move himself forward differently as you are able to move yourself forward differently. We would like you to understand that as many of you have lived during that time, each of you have grown as well, and your thoughts and your feelings have changed as well all throughout your incarnations. If one were to place oneself back in that time with the limited knowledge of being on the intellectual level, one would be in quite a different circumstance indeed.
Makes sense.
Okay.
I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I got clarity. I'm not speaking to it so much to let our listeners arrive at it on their own. Because I got something for me on that. I got something for all of us to understand on that. That's really good.
Good.
Hmm. Is there anything, what are you getting?
I was just
What are you
asked if there was anything more, and they said, no, she will. Hey,
getting?
she'll ask.
Yeah. I just got a window pop up on my. Okay. I had 3 questions, so I was just asking what was the best one. Well, is there anything, well, hang on, let me think how to say this. I can feel it, I just can't get it into words. Is there a clarity of understanding that Joe would like to bring to this audience as it pertains to himself as Jesus, or as it pertains to themselves, our audience healing themselves as Jesus would have?
It is important to understand that each one has their own abilities of healing. It is not for one to rely on Jesus or Joe to facilitate healing. It is for each one to, it's like to make that connection with self, as in the self connection, in order to allow oneself to bring through one's own healing abilities, of which there is greatness indeed. We can tell you that if it is that you would like the assistance of Jesus, the assistance of Joe, it is important that you understand that it is only assistance, that you are doing the healing with the help, love, and care of another. It is important to understand for one to heal, it is important that one have the love and care of oneself as well as another, as one cannot complete the healing process without the input or the connection with self. We can tell you that there is reliance on others for healing, and it is important that the reliance on others equates to support from another. It is not necessarily the healing of another, it is the support of another in healing oneself. That is how it works. That is why one comes to the earth plane, to allow oneself to connect with oneself in spirit. And as one allows oneself to connect with one in spirit and connect with another on the earth plane, a great deal is created, both in spirit and within the one on the earth plane. We can tell you it is important that each one understand that on the earth plane, there is a great deal in process. And one, it's like one needs to or can focus on one's own being for one's own healing. It is important to understand. It is not out there, so to speak. It is not at the behest of another. It is within oneself where the healing process begins. There is the physical healing, of course, and then there is the emotional healing, and then there is that part that has long been forgotten about the underlying sources of physical upsetness. There is the underlying emotional incapacity that has allowed one to be in a process of stuckness, in a process of inability to move forward. When one allows oneself to feel that feeling of the stuckness, of the emotion, the underlying cause, one is able to heal the physical issues related. Do not be concerned, all is love.
Well, you and I both know that to be true.
Yeah, I didn't expect
So,
it to go that way, though. Okay, that's interesting.
yeah, well, and I think we've talked about it in another episode, and even I think as we were talking about Jesus and like the mechanics of like what actually is happening in a moment of healing, which is when an individual decides to step into the allowing. And sometimes they allow themselves to be healed because they think it's another healing them. And so it's like, that's where the allowing comes in, stepping into the allowing, right? Or they are given a crystal or a tincture or a medication, and it's like, this is gonna do it. And it's like the belief in that puts them into stepping into the allowing of it, and it's like that's what's healing them, the allowance, not so much the thing.
Right.
Thing,
The
right?
allowance, the allowance of their own energy and their own connection with themselves, rather than, as you said, the thing, whatever it is.
Whatever it is that's outside of them.
Right. It's within them.
Um,
Mhm. Even on the spiritual plane, yeah, I believe the way I understand it is on the spiritual plane, the allowing comes from allowing yourself to heal yourself. But there are others, I guess it's the support also, the support of knowing that they're there to help you, and their energy can also help you. It's kind of like raise your energy, which will
yeah.
allow you to heal you. It's like, yeah.
So what's interesting is, because I have come to know and understand that healing works this way, I will get stuck in a place of suffering, or I know you hate when I use that word, but or if there's a physical thing going on, right? Like my hip has been bothering me a lot lately. And I'll take time to sit and say, I step into the allowing, I ask for assistance in healing this pain. I no longer, whatever this is, right? And I'll even sometimes identify what that feeling is, and I'll allow myself to feel it, but it doesn't always heal. Not right then. It takes time, it seems. And so I feel like I'm allowing, but there's something there that is disallowing. Can they speak to, I mean, I know I'm trying to ask a broad question. I'm using a specific example, but if they can speak to like the theoretical side of it, not this specific example, but in general, when you step into the allowing and the healing doesn't happen, what could be happening there?
Okay, so remind me when I'm finished saying what I'm going to say here, to ask that question again.
Okay.
What I've come to learn is that there are emotional issues that are not of this incarnation that are causing some of these things. And as you focus your energy on, for me, I get a pain somewhere. So I'll focus my energy on that pain. I don't need to know what's causing that pain. I don't need to know anything about it. I just need to know it's there. And then allow the energy of my knowing to heal the emotion that is trapped under that pain or a part of that pain. And it's about healing the trapped emotions that helps allow for the healing of the physical. And sometimes it's more than one emotion, more than one, it's like in layers sometimes. And when it takes more than one time to do it. Now we'll see what the multitude has to say.
Okay,
So,
before I ask it again, I want to just mention a modality called the emotion code that is pretty good at getting to the emotional root of physical complaints.
yeah.
Although I think it's gotten to be like taken it and made it more and more complicated than it used to be. But anyway,
Don't really need to know the cause of that pain. You just need to
right.
know it's there and know that it will be healed as you continue to allow your spiritual self, that part of you that is powerful in spirit, to come and help you heal you.
Okay, yeah, so you kind of answered what my follow-up question was gonna be, so that's good. Okay, so for the multitude, or Joe, or I know Joe's part of the multitude, so, um, what was I gonna, how did I frame it? It was in an instance where, um, someone feels that they are stepping into the allowing and asking for assistance, and the healing, the physical pain doesn't dissipate. So uh, in a human mind, it might say it didn't work.
Mhm.
What could actually be going on in those cases?
It is important to understand, my dear, that sometimes there are those things that cannot be healed on the earth plane. Most of the time, there are those things that cannot be healed in the spiritual. Therefore, one comes to the earth plane to complete the process. Sometimes one begins a process and allows it to carry on just so far, and allows oneself to return home and complete as much as can be done in the spiritual, and then needs to come to the earth plane to complete the process of healing. Sometimes there is more than one can complete in one lifetime. Sometimes there is more than one can complete on the spiritual level. Therefore, it is a combination of the two that are important in our estimation. It is important to understand that one does the best that one can, and one allows oneself experiences in order to allow oneself to feel. When one is on the earth plane and an experience cannot heal itself, it is a matter of feeling. When one can feel the feeling, one has made great process, or a great process indeed. Progress.
Okay, so
Great progress.
so just to clarify, when they say feeling, they're talking about emotional feeling and not sensorial feeling.
Exactly. Emotional feeling. Yes. Thank you.
So what I think I heard was, sometimes, like, yeah, you can do that connection with the spiritual self and receive healing in that way. But sometimes it's about walking through this physical life and having experiences and interactions and relationships. Well, there's your relationships, Ginny. You wanted to talk about relationships. Uh, that in the interaction of relationship, or just being in this world, things will happen in our surroundings and our relationships that will be the catalyst that brings on that emotional feeling. And that in the feeling of that emotion, once again, maybe it's deeper than we felt it before, that's when the emotion gets released. So that's what I think I heard.
That's the healing of the feeling.
Yeah. And so it's good to know that, because I think as humans, we often, we kind of get addicted to seeking pleasure or avoiding pain. And so when those uncomfortable feelings begin to arise, I know for me, when I start feeling the uncomfortable, maybe it's feeling judgment from another, um, it's almost a pattern that I don't have control over anymore, because it's just been my whole life. I go to my mind and I try to understand what's happening in front of me to rationalize it, and that takes me out of the feeling, the emotional part of it. And so what I've then done is I've blocked off that deep emoting that could create healing, because I went to my head to try to understand it.
Right.
Now at the same time, sometimes for me, without having that experience of a trigger, sometimes understanding it helps me to get into my heart, right? Like, it helps me to have compassion for myself. Like, why can't I do this, or why can't I do that? And I keep coming across this, and then I'll come to you, Ginny, and you'll give me some sort of insight, and oh well, there's a past life element, or this happened when you were younger, or whatever. And then it's like, oh, oh, okay. So get off the self-shaming horse and have compassion for myself. And then that lets me to sink into my heart have compassion for myself, nurture that part of me that needs nurturing. And then it's like, it's almost like because I feel compassion towards myself, I allow myself to feel the emotion I wasn't able to feel.
Yeah,
Um,
I like the way that you framed that. That's a good way to put it.
yeah, and I think everyone's different, but I think a lot of humans avoid pain, and so they quickly, like I notice it for myself when like my son says something nasty to me, right away I'm gonna dissociate and just I'm here now, you know?
Yeah.
And that's like a terrible addiction for me, is to avoid feeling the pain of that by distraction. And I think that prevents me from a healing moment, from sitting with that feeling
Yeah.
and really holding space for it so that it can be released and healed.
But as you were explaining that, and you said, oh, yeah, oh, excuse me, oh, I can have compassion for myself. And I could feel the change in your energy, and I could
Yeah.
feel feeling happening. I didn't have anything to do with it, but I could feel it that you had, were completing a process, whatever it was. I don't know what it was. You don't know what it was. I just know that you had completed that process.
Oh, good. Check that off the list. Well, that's why I love, I will say sitting in circle with people is really transformative, because others who well, whether we trust them or not, right? But sometimes others can see us better than we can see ourselves and can see what is blocking us. And so if you're sitting in circle with people who you trust and who are on that same page of wanting to grow, like Ginny and I sit in a circle once a month and we help each other through stuff. And everyone in that circle is pretty open to hearing the insights that another might bring about the issue at hand. And I think, yeah, a lot of compassion can come from that.
Yeah, I think also, we can do that for each other. But I think what happens too is everyone in that circle is working from their own state, their own space of being. And by
Yeah.
doing that, they're allowing their own healing as well.
Yeah, like how many times do we sit in circle where someone's talking about their own issue, but as you're sitting and listening, you're resonating with some of it, like, oh, I know how that person feels, and
Yeah,
I've been there. Wow, this is hitting home. And so yeah, there's like an internal process that's happening too,
yeah, yeah,
which is another really cool thing about sitting in circle. It's like you're all healing yourself at the same time, and
yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Because you're all here sharing a lot of the same experiences, even if you don't bring it up when it resonates with you. You can allow it to heal. And the other part of that is maybe you bring up something, Kelly, that's happening for you now. And I'm not sharing that in this lifetime, but somewhere along one of my lifetimes, I have felt that and I have experienced that. So I can so that it brings that feeling to the forefront, and that underlying emotional issue gets healed at the same time. So it doesn't have to be of this lifetime, but it does come up when the time is right.
Well, that makes me think of people who call themselves empaths. It makes me wonder if um, part of their empathic quality is doing just that for them, is allowing past life healing through not having to experience it themselves, but experience it through witnessing another.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. They're saying, yes, we can agree with that.
Oh, good, but probably not all the time, just for some people, some of the time,
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah,
Yeah. And I think with Well, we could, oh, maybe, did we do an episode on empaths?
I don't believe we have.
I don't think we did either. I think that's gonna be the topic of the next one, because that's a big one. I think there's a lot to be demystified there so that people can feel more empowered.
Okay.
So we'll do that next time.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything else on the topics we've discussed today that the multitude would like to add in closing?
We would like you all to understand that as you continue to move along your path of loving care of self, allow yourself to feel your feelings, allow yourself to heal your feelings, allow yourself to move forward on the earth plane in the best possible way you can. It is the bigger and better creator. It's like creator of reason why you came to the earth plane in order to allow yourself the healing, allow yourself the feeling, and allow yourself the growth. Do not be concerned when it is that each one is ready to complete a process. Each one does. Sometimes it's like sometimes one takes longer than the other, and sometimes something takes longer than another. It does not matter. When the time is right, the time is right. And when it is that each one allows oneself to feel one's feelings, the feelings will come at the right, correct time. Do not be concerned. All is love.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank Jesus and Joe and the multitude for joining us today and answering all of our questions.
Hey, Jesus and Joe, Jesus is saying, they're saying, I am only one person with many lifetimes. Do not forget that, as I am not separate from you. I have my lifetime now as you have your lifetime now. Do not be concerned. All is love.
Okay, so just thanks, Joe.
Yeah, I think
I, I, I do see them as one, but I think that's a good clarification and reminder.
I think that's important because, you know, we tend to take people and put them up on pedestals who have lived centuries ago, whether it be Jesus or anybody else. And we forget that, you know, or never even knew that, yes, that was them then, but they also are a being who creates and reincarnates as we do. So it's like, for me, it's like take them off the pedestal because they're not those people anymore. It's a great story. It's a great learning. It is great perception, but they have reincarnated as we have reincarnated.
Hmm,
Yeah, that's
love it.
how I see it. So,
Awesome.
well, thanks, Kelly. I appreciate your thoughtfulness,
Thank,
question.
thank you, Ginny.
They are answers.
Thanks for being such a clear channel.
Oh, you're welcome.
Really.
I enjoy it.
Yeah,
It's fun. It's
I do too.
easy and it's fun for me. So.
Same here. I mean, it's very easy for me to just sit and ask questions, Amelia. You know me, I always have a curious mind.
Why we're a good pair, right?
Yep. All
Okay.
right, Ginny.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. We'll see you guys next time on the Self Connection.
Bye.